When you hear the name Michael Jordan, most people immediately think of the Chicago Bulls, where he won 6 championships, 5 MVPs, and gave fans some of the most legendary moments in NBA history. There's no doubt MJ was the GOAT when he played for the Bulls, but when it comes to his 2 seasons with the Washington Wizards, the narrative changes. Many argue those years tarnished his legacy and that he should have stayed retired after his storybook ending in 1998. But here's the thing, MJ on the Wizards was way better than most people give him credit for. I'm gonna break down why Jordan's time in Washington deserves way more respect, and how it showed the world that even at 40, Jordan was a force to be reckoned with. To understand how Michael Jordan ended up on the Washington Wizards, we have to go back to 1998, when he retired from the Chicago Bulls for the 2nd time. See, MJ had the perfect ending to his last dance season. Hitting a game winner in the finals to win his 6th NBA championship was the perfect conclusion to his career. But behind the scenes, things weren't so perfect. Prior to that year starting, the Bulls GM, Jerry Krause, had already decided that head coach Phil Jackson wouldn't return to the Bulls, no matter what happened that season. Jordan had always been loyal to Phil, famously saying, "I'm not playing for anyone else."
I said from day one, if Phil's not coaching, I'm not going to be a part of rebuilding.
With Jackson gone and Krause looking to rebuild the team, MJ was done with Chicago.
And my feeling would tell me, hey, maybe this is a good time just to say, hey, I'm done.
He didn't want to be part of a franchise that was destroying a dynasty, so Jordan walked away from the game, seemingly for good. But for MJ, retirement didn't last long. In 2000, he became part owner and president of basketball operations for the Washington Wizards. But Jordan's new role didn't go as smoothly as many hoped. MJ faced immediate challenges trying to rebuild a struggling franchise. Managing a team from the front office wasn't as easy for Jordan as dominating on the court was, and the pressure was on for him to deliver results. One of his first major moves was to overhaul the Wizards roster, trading away familiar faces and drafting young talent like Kwame Brown with the 1st overall pick in 2001. Kwame was expected to be a cornerstone for the future, but he struggled under the weight of expectations and admittedly under Jordan's intense style of leadership. For someone who set impossibly high standards as a player, transitioning into a role that required patience and delegation wasn't easy for MJ. As the team continued to underperform, Jordan became increasingly frustrated. He wasn't just watching losses pile up, he was also hearing critics question his decision-making abilities as an executive. The Wizards were struggling, and Jordan wasn't the type to sit idly by and watch it happen. That's when the itch to return to the court became undeniable. In 2001, at 38 years old, Jordan shocked the basketball world by announcing his comeback, not as a publicity stunt, but because he genuinely believed he could still play at a high level and inspire his team through example. For Jordan, stepping back on the court wasn't just about competing. It was about proving that his greatness could still lift a team, even in his late 30s. Before Michael Jordan joined the Wizards as a player, the team was in a rough spot. The 2000-2001 season saw them finish with a dismal 19-63 record, one of the worst in franchise history. To make matters worse, heading into the 2001-2002 season, they made little to no significant additions to the roster to turn things around. In fact, they lost 2 of their top scorers, Juwan Howard and Mitch Richmond, leaving the team with even fewer weapons. When the season did start, it was clear that the Wizards had a long way to go. After 17 games, they were 5-12 and struggling to find chemistry and consistency. But even amidst the team's early struggles, Jordan was proving that he could still play at an elite level. In those first 17 games, MJ averaged 24.8 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 5 assists per game, showing flashes of the dominance that made him the greatest of all time. While the Wizards weren't winning, Jordan's individual performance reminded fans and critics alike that he wasn't just coming back for nostalgia, he was here to compete. And after a rough start, the Wizards quickly turned things around in spectacular fashion. They went on a 13-2 stretch, including an impressive 9-game winning streak where everything seemed to click. And leading the charge, a 38-year-old Michael Jordan who had just spent the previous 3 years sitting behind a front desk in a suit and tie. Now MJ was proving that even after time away from the game, he could still dominate on the court. During this hot streak, MJ was putting up around 24 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists per game, doing everything he could to carry the team. But what really stood out was a 3-game stretch where MJ showed glimpses of his Chicago days. On December 29, 2001, Jordan went off. He dropped 51 points in a win over the Charlotte Hornets, becoming the oldest player in NBA history to score 50+ in a game. But he wasn't done yet. Just 2 nights later, he followed it up with 45 points against the New Jersey Nets, leading the Wizards to another victory. But the next game for Jordan might have been his most iconic in a Wizard uniform. On January 4, 2002, MJ, for the first time ever, was suiting up against the Chicago Bulls. Michael Jordan played well this game, scoring 29 points. This was actually the game Jordan scored his 30,000th career point. But with just 30 seconds left, the Bulls were down by 6, and MJ got blocked. The play he made next was vintage Jordan.
Look at Jordan Dawkins stealing off the glass. Tremendous defensive play.
MJ's block here was maybe his most iconic moment in a Wizards uniform, and this 3-game stretch was the best basketball he played for the franchise. He put up big numbers in that stretch, but it wasn't just about the numbers. These performances by Jordan were a statement, showing that even in his late 30s, after playing golf and smoking cigars for a few years, he could still dominate the NBA. Despite his incredible performances, Jordan's comeback wasn't without its challenges. As the 2001-2002 season progressed, a more serious issue started to surface: his knees. In December of 2001, Jordan began to feel discomfort in his left knee, something that would progressively get worse as the season went on. Reports said that during the season, MJ had to get his knee drained 3 times, and yet he continued to play through the pain. The wear and tear from not playing for 3 years and then jumping straight back into the grind of an 82-game NBA season ended up being too much, even for MJ. Jordan's personal trainer, Tim Grover, had warned him about the risk of coming back too quickly after such a long break. Grover had always emphasized the importance of gradual conditioning, but MJ's competitive fire led him to push through the pain. Unfortunately, that decision started to catch up with him. The knee problem became unbearable for Jordan after he had a collision with teammate Etan Thomas. As a result of the collision, MJ was forced to sit out for a 12-game stretch. It was a frustrating setback for Jordan, who had been on such a high, but even he couldn't escape the physical limitations of age and time away from the game. Before the knee injury sidelined him, Michael Jordan was in the MVP conversation. His remarkable performances through the first half of the 2001-2002 season had put him right back in the spotlight, showing that even in his late 30s, he could still lead a team to success. After the first 50 games, the Wizards were sitting at a respectable 27-23 record, a massive improvement from their 19-63 disaster the year before. Jordan had not only brought his own game back to an elite level, but he also had helped transform a struggling franchise into a competitive team. His leadership, scoring, and all-around contributions had put the Wizards in playoff contention, something no one expected after the mess of the previous season. His impact was undeniable, and if it weren't for his knee issues, there's a good chance Jordan could have been in the MVP discussion at the end of the season. When MJ played, the Wizards were winning games, and it was clear that Michael Jordan, despite being past his prime, was still one of the league's top players. But when Michael Jordan wasn't on the floor, it was a completely different story. Without MJ, the team went just 7-15, a reminder of how reliant they were on his presence. Jordan's impact wasn't just about the points he scored, it was about the confidence and direction he provided for the entire team. The Wizards lacked a true leader when he wasn't playing, and the results spoke for themselves. While the team did have some young talent like Rip Hamilton, they couldn't fill the void left by Jordan's all-around game and experience. And as the season came to a close, the Wizards finished with a 37-45 record and missed the playoffs. Despite the team's struggles, Michael Jordan's individual performance throughout the season was a testament to his greatness. Over the course of the year, MJ averaged 22.9 points, 5.7 rebounds, and 4.2 assists per game. But remember, before his knee injury worsened, he averaged 25.1 points, 5.3 assists, and 6.2 rebounds over 46 games. and after the injury, he averaged just 16.3 points, 5.1 assists, and 3.9 rebounds. Even with the injury, MJ's ability to put up impressive numbers and lead the team earned him 13th in NBA MVP voting. It was clear that even in his twilight years, Michael Jordan was still one of the league's top players. His presence on the court made the Wizards a better team, and he was still among the NBA's most respected stars. Heading into the 2002-2003 NBA season, the Washington Wizards didn't make any major improvements to their roster. The most significant change came with the trade that sent Richard Hamilton to the Detroit Pistons in exchange for Jerry Stackhouse. The lack of significant additions left the Wizards with a roster that still relied heavily on MJ, and unfortunately, it wasn't enough to take them to the next level. For Jordan, the 2002-2003 season was a tough one. His knee injury, which already had caused issues in the previous year, continued to be a major problem. While he still had some incredible performances, like a 45-point game on February 1st, 2003, his ability to perform consistently took a significant step back. The physical toll of the injury became clear as the season wore on. Jordan, who had rarely struggled to stay effective throughout his career, found himself failing to score in double figures on multiple occasions. One of the most disappointing moments came on December 15, 2002, when he posted just 2 points in a loss to the Indiana Pacers. It was clear, despite the occasional brilliance, Jordan could no longer carry the load on a nightly basis as he once did. The wear and tear of his body, combined with the team's lack of upgrades, led to a season that was much more of a struggle than the previous year for Jordan. Despite the tough year, Michael Jordan still showed his incredible resilience. Even though he was battling through pain and dealing with limitations of his knee, Jordan was still able to play all 82 games of the season, and Jordan still put up solid numbers, averaging 20 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 3.8 assists per game. While it wasn't the dominant level of play that fans have come to expect from him, it was still impressive considering the circumstances. In recognition of his efforts, Jordan was named an NBA All-Star for the 14th time in his career. It was a remarkable achievement, especially when you consider that he was playing through pain and wasn't quite the same player he once was. Even at 40 years old, and with his body starting to show signs of wear, Jordan was still an all-star, proving that his legacy as one of the game's all-time greats was far from over. As tough as the 2002-2003 season was for Michael Jordan, it's clear that his time with the Wizards should be remembered for more than just the struggles. Even through pain, Jordan proved that his legacy was far from finished. He may not have been the same player as before, but he still showed signs of dominance when healthy and gave NBA fans some unforgettable moments on the court. If you're an NBA fan, which let's be real, you are, you should click the video on the screen.